Welcome back to iClone3D.com, the #1 place for all your animation needs. And in today's tutorial, we're going to be looking at how to use some physics simulations to get some props to react with one another. In this instance, we're going to be using this pool table, and we're going to have the white ball breaking into all of the other balls on the table. So without further ado, let's crack on with today's tutorial. So firstly, I'm going to select the pool table and we're going to activate the physics here and we're going to change it to static mode. I'm now going to go down to the bounding type and I'm going to change this to a self mesh. And once that's converted, we now want to select the white ball here. We're going to activate the physics and this time we're going to change that to frozen. Now remember, frozen allows two props to react with one another and collide when they come into contact. And finally, we'll change the bounding type to a sphere. Now we want to select the first ball here and we want to come to our scene tab and we're going to scroll down to the last ball. We'll hold down shift and we'll click on that last ball and that will then select all of those props and we can activate the physics for all of them at once. Now again, we're going to change it to frozen because we want this white ball to knock into these balls and break them apart. We're also going to change the bounding type to a sphere here. And finally, we're going to select the pool cue, but this time we're going to be activating the physics and we're going to be using kinematic. Now remember, kinematic allows you to add keyframes and movement to your props. So once you've done that and you've set everything up, you can change the bounding type to a self mesh or you can leave it as a box. It doesn't really matter in this instance, but we'll change that to a self mesh. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to now create the physics by moving the pool cue back and adding some keyframes. So at frame 0, you can see we've already got a keyframe automatically set. So we're going to move to frame 30. We're going to move that pool cue back. And then we're going to go to frame 60 and we'll move it forward. But this time we want to move it forward enough so it actually makes contact with the white ball and goes through the white ball. And again, you can adjust this to get kind of different speeds and different power when you're actually doing the shot. So if I now play this from the beginning, you're going to see that it actually knocks that white ball into those balls and they break apart. So very simple way that you can actually use the physics to actually create some natural, realistic simulations in your scene. Now, one of the issues here is that you can see the balls don't actually stop rolling. So of course, it's one of the problems when you use a self mesh on a prop, that it doesn't actually stop the balls from rolling, which is a little bit annoying because, you know, there is no current fix for it. So one quick and easy workaround is actually to create a floor. So I'm going to go up to create and we're going to create a floor here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to raise this floor above the table and we're going to put it in position where the kind of green cloth is. And what we'll do is we'll then add some physics to this and then you'll see we get a bit of a different reaction. So we're just going to make sure that we perfectly drag it up and not too much. We don't want it to be higher than the table currently is, so about here. And then we're just going to rescale it into position. So just using that scale tool, we're going to reposition it so it perfectly covers that table. Okay, so once you've done that, we're going to activate the physics for this. And again, we're going to leave it on static here. And you can leave the bounding type as a box. And now what we can do is we can actually go into the attributes tab here and we can set that as a dummy so we don't actually see it in our scene. And now we'll click on the rigid body simulations to turn it off and we'll turn it back on so we can regenerate the simulation. Now when I play it back, you'll see that the balls actually will stop and they'll actually not continue to roll, as you can see here. So it just works a little bit better. You can see they're rolling for a little bit, but eventually they should stop. So a couple of things we can do to actually get them to stop a little bit quicker is we're going to select the balls and I'm going to go down to the final one and hold shift and press left click and that will select them all. And then what we can do is we can actually increase the friction here to maybe a value of 100 or maybe 75. And we can also increase the damping to maybe a value of 40 or 50. And we'll play it back now and we'll see if these balls stop a little bit sooner. Okay, so now you can see that they do stop rolling and it works perfectly. So again, just by messing around with the attributes here under the property value, you can get that ball to stop a bit sooner. You can see our white ball here is still rolling. And again, if we select that white ball and we actually check, we can see that the friction is really low and the damping is really low. So again, we'll turn the friction up on this white ball to 75. And we'll also increase the damping to about 40, and that's going to stop a lot sooner. So I'll just turn off the simulation and turn it back on, and we'll now play it back, and you'll see that that will stop a lot sooner. Now, of course, you know, if we're not getting the results we want in terms of how the balls are breaking up, we're going to go back, we're going to turn off the simulation and back on, and I'm going to select these balls now, and we're going to just lower the attributes in the property panel. So we'll bring that friction down to maybe 40 as well, and we'll bring that damping down to maybe 20, and we'll see how that simulates when we play it back. But again, just adjusting them little values, you can see now we're getting a bit more of a realistic result. Okay, so if you want to make that a little bit more powerfuler when the ball's bumping into these balls, what we can do with our white ball and our cue, we can actually select the cue here. And what we can do is we can bring these keyframes a little bit closer, and that's going to give us a little bit more power. Now on that final keyframe, we can also move the cue a little bit further through the ball, and that's going to give us a much more powerful shot. So we'll turn off the simulation and turn it back on, and we'll hit play. And you can see now the results aren't actually working accordingly. So I'll just re-simulate and see what happens. Okay, but you can see that's not working perfectly anymore. So one thing we can do is we can change that bounding type to a box and see if that works better for us. So again, we just need to turn off the simulation and turn it back on, and we'll play. And now you can see that that is moving the ball differently, but we've got a little bit too much power now. So it's not actually working correct, and the physics are a little bit too fast. Now, one of the things we can do is we can turn it onto by a frame, and we can play this back by a frame, and then you can see it will work a little bit better. Just remember to always turn off your simulation and turn it back on to re-simulate. But now you can see that works a whole lot better. Okay, so that does conclude this tutorial where we've looked at how we can actually use the physics simulation in real scenarios to get some really awesome results. Really hope that helps, and really hope to see you guys again soon for another tutorial.